Okay, think about your favorite fruit for a second. Got it? Now, what if I told you that for every single fruit you can name, there are probably hundreds, maybe thousands, of others that have completely vanished from the planet? Today, we're going to dive into the incredible and kind of sad story of the fruits that time forgot. I love this quote. It really puts things into perspective, right? We tend to think the story of fruit is, linked to our story, to the history of farming. But the truth is, the story of fruit began millions and millions of years before we ever showed up. And these right here are the big questions we're asking. We're about to go on this wild journey from the age of the dinosaurs all the way to the produce aisle at your local grocery store. And we're not just looking at what we've lost. We're trying to understand a hidden fragility in the food we have right now. Okay, first things first, we have to rewind the clock. And I mean way back. Back to a time before anything you'd recognize as human was even around. The scale on this timeline is just mind-blowing. Land plants show up 470 million years ago, but actual primitive fruits don't even appear until around 140 million years ago. And then look all the way over at the very end. See that tiny, tiny little sliver? That's us. That's all of modern human history. It's just a blink. For millions of years, fruits were evolving in a world that belonged to the dinosaurs, not to people. So that leads to this really fascinating concept, anachronistic fruits. It sounds complicated, but it's basically this. They're evolutionary leftovers. These fruits evolved to be eaten and have their seeds spread by huge animals like mastodons and giant ground sloths. When those animals went extinct, the fruits were suddenly orphaned. They lost their evolutionary partners. They became these ghosts in the ecosystem with no good way to get around anymore. And then, bam, the big one hits. That asteroid impact. We all know it wiped out the dinosaurs, but it was also a total catastrophe for plant life. It created this huge evolutionary bottleneck. Entire families of fruit, entire plant lineages that had been doing just fine for millions of years were just erased, wiped off the planet in what was, geologically speaking, the blink of an eye. Okay, so let's hit the fast forward button. A really big fast forward. We're jumping into recorded human history now, and this is where the story gets a lot more personal. We're talking about flavors that our own great-great-grandparents might have actually known. Take the Anselt pear. Back in the 1800s, people apparently raved about this thing, saying it had this rich, buttery texture. Sounds amazing, right? The problem was it was a pain to grow. It was temperamental. And in a world that was quickly moving toward huge industrial farms, there just wasn't room for a difficult pear. So this incredible flavor that people once prized just, poof, it was gone. And here's an example that really makes these losses feel real. Thomas Jefferson. He grew a specific kind of apple called the Taliaferro at Monticello. He thought it was the absolute best apple for making cider. You'd think with that kind of history, that kind of pedigree, it would be safe, right? Nope. It's gone. Completely and totally lost to time. And all of this brings us right up to today. Because here's the kicker. The greatest extinction of fruit isn't something that happened millions of years ago, or even 100 years ago. It's happening right now, all around us. But it's a lot sneakier, a lot harder to see. 90%. Just let that number sink in for a minute. What do you think that represents? Well, that's the percentage of fruit varieties that have disappeared from farms in just the last 100 years. It's an absolutely staggering number. And this distinction right here is so important. We aren't losing the apple as a species. What we're losing are the thousands upon thousands of unique types of apples, like the Taliaferro. A species going extinct is a rare, huge catastrophe. But this variety extinction, it's a quiet, ongoing crisis, and it's driven entirely by how we grow our food today. So why is it happening? Well, it pretty much all comes down to the modern food system. It demands that everything be the same, uniform. Fruits are chosen because they can survive being picked, packed, and shipped thousands of miles without turning to mush. So we're selecting for toughness and looks, not for taste or diversity. If a variety is too soft or a weird shape or just too temperamental to grow on a massive scale, it just gets left behind. And if you want the absolute perfect example of this whole modern problem, of this hidden danger in our food supply, we don't have to look any further than the world's most popular fruit, the banana. See, before the 1950s, the banana you would have eaten was called a Gros Michel, or Big Mike, and people who tried it swear it was sweeter, creamier, just all around better than what we have now. But then a fungus called Panama disease just ripped through the world's plantations and wiped it out commercially. The entire industry scrambled and found a replacement, the Cavendish. It's the only banana most of us have ever known. But now, guess what? History is repeating itself. A new strain of that exact same disease is spreading, and it's coming for the Cavendish. And this gets to the very core of the problem. Commercial bananas aren't grown from seeds. They're clones. Every single banana you see in the store is genetically identical to every other one. This complete lack of diversity is our Achilles heel. It means that if a disease can kill one Cavendish plant, it can, in theory, kill every single Cavendish plant on Earth. So let's bring this all together. We've gone from prehistoric forests all the way to the modern grocery aisle. So why does this history of lost fruit matter so much to us today? At the end of the day, this isn't really about being nostalgic for a sweeter banana or a buttery pear. It's about something way more important: resilience. Every time one of these varieties vanishes, a unique set of genetic information is lost from the world forever. That diversity is our safety net. It's our firewall against future diseases, pests, and climate change. And by relying on just a few identical crops, we're making our global food system incredibly, incredibly fragile. And that leaves us with a final, kind of a sobering thought. We look back at the Ansalt pear or the Taliaferro apple as these interesting relics of a lost world. But the system that made them disappear is more powerful now than ever. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What fruits that we enjoy today, right now, are destined to become the ghosts of tomorrow's orchard?